Yesterday, for those of you who watched the show, you know we discussed the role of women in development with particular emphasis on politics. Tonight, we are continuing the conversation regarding women, and we are shifting our focus generally to the rights of women, which of course will then cut across and move beyond the realm of politics, but general rights of women regarding everything. I'm sure we'll be talking about the economic rights and social rights and all the other rights within the family, to work, etc. And it's going to be quite a wide discussion. Our question is really whether it's a myth or a fallacy. Interesting way to put it, because both of them, myth, fallacy, seem to be on the left side of things, if you know what I mean. But we really will be getting into the groove, asking about the role that women actually do play. We have conflicts all over the place. In this election year, we're discussing the possibility of making sure we keep tempers down, because, you know, sometimes in an election year, we tend to think that tempers may flare. Can women be critical to that? How do we build peace? How do we fight against oppression? You can't talk about women and not talk about children, because of course, even for the men out there, we have to admit that for the most part, the first shout that a cry puts out when it's in trouble of any kind is for mama or mommy and not for daddy. Daddy sometimes is a second thought. So we are asking whether we really have the legal regime in this country to take care of women. And if we do, whether it is going far enough, whether beyond being in print, black and white, that it's really taking effect as a nation. Are we really respecting the rights of women? And is religion also factoring itself in there somewhat to make this quite an issue? We've recently also had questions about people being branded as witches. And indeed, recently a 17-year-old girl who turned out to be extremely brilliant has been called a witch and actually sent away to a witch's camp. Is brilliance the exclusive preserve of men, is a question that you'll be asking yourself. So we have quite a lot on our plate, and I'm sure you have views on the matter. You can send them ahead. 1760 is our text line. It will cost you 30 pesos to send a text message. If you're on Facebook, it's facebook.com/multi-TV. Well, and of course, one of the most prominent names in this discussion in this country is in the studio with us tonight. Ms. Angela Dramina Abuaje is Executive Director of the ARC Foundation. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Later on in the show, we hope to be joined on the phone by Mr. Samuel Amankwa Bosompem. He's a Deputy Director for Public Education and Research at the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. That is SHRAJ. We hope to get in touch with him. Let's come straight to the studio, Angela, and begin the discussion with you. Many will say, and of course this is a continuation of what we did yesterday of a sort, and many will say that we seem to have so many laws in this country, and we have you lawyers quoting them to us every day, article that of article that. We have international conventions which we say we have all ratified as a country together with other countries and all. Why are we still in the year 2012 talking about the rights of women and children in Ghana, asking whether it's a myth or it's a reality? What is the reason?
Well, it's interesting the way you put it. It's true. There are many, many laws. Ghana is signatory to several international human rights conventions. You know, we are very good at signing and ratifying those conventions.
Right.
But we must say that even though we've come a long way, we still have a very long way to go, because implementation seems to be the bane of this country. When you talk about the legal regime, we have the Constitution. In the Constitution, we have the Fundamental Human Rights chapter, under which you have women's rights, you have rights of all kinds of vulnerable persons in there. We have the international covenants, as we talked about, like the CEDAW, Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We have this Convention on the Rights of Children. We also come to the laws, and we have several laws concerning women and children that are on our statute books. But unfortunately, you know, implementation is the problem, and that's where we have to go. Okay,
I'll come back to you, but I'm told that we have the Deputy Women and Children's Affairs Minister on the line, Honorable Hajia Hawawu Boya Gariba. Good evening to you, Honorable.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're told that it's been quite a hectic day for you, and we are really grateful that you still found time to speak to us.
Yeah.
In the first place, we're discussing the rights of women and children in Ghana. You're from the ministry where you are. Can you give us an overview of the situation regarding women in Ghana?
Well, I thought we were just going to talk about the issue we had at hand, but if we are talking about an overview of what where we are as women, I think that I cannot give you the right information right now, but I think that we have not gotten where we want to get to as a nation. Because if we look at what we have in Parliament, the number of women, 19 women, compared to 230 seats, it is not anything that we should be proud about. We are always first to do certain things, sign conventions and protocols and so many things. But in reality, we are not able to achieve what we need to. And so it's not the best. We still have a lot of issues at hand. We have a lot of children out of school. We have a situation where we have witch camps in Ghana. We also have a situation where we have a lot of women being majority of the poor in this country. And then we also have a lot of unemployment of our women, even though they have some of them have the required education, they still are not employed because they are women, and because of their reproductive functions, they are not given some opportunities to perform their duties or to show what they can do, their abilities in developing as part of their contribution towards the development of this country. So generally, this is what we are looking at. We still have problems with religious, with religion, with culture. Female genital mutilation is something that is not too common these days, but we still have some pockets of that one going on. And so generally, this is what is going on in the country, and we still have to go further to make sure that we achieve the needed empowerment that we are talking about for women. We need to educate our girl child. We need to get women in certain positions so that we can all be part of the development agenda of this country.
Of course, you cited the issue about witches and witch camps for witches in Ghana. And definitely, I'm sure you also want to speak about the issue, the plight of the 17-year-old little girl, 17-year-old young lady who...
Yeah.
Really, simply by virtue of her brilliance, is being characterized as a witch. What is happening with that story?
Well, I met with her this morning, and in Tamale, I didn't want to go there because that would attract a lot of attention to her, and we are trying to protect her health from the public. So we invited them to Tamale for us to have a discussion, because through your efforts too, we have some organization that has come to, which is interested in sponsoring her education for the 3 years SSS or SHS, and then there's a school that is offering admission to her. And so I wanted to know whether she would like to attend the school in Accra, or she still wants to be in the north. So she's giving me assurance that she will be giving me her response in about 2 or 3 days, where she wants to be. Her mother was not part of the discussion. She couldn't come with her, so she wanted to go and consult with the mother to see how best we can, because she's interested in attending school, and she says that she wants to be a nurse in future, and so she wants to pursue whatever. She wants to go back to school, and if she gets a scholarship, why not? She will go and attend school and then achieve her objective.
Of course, you say you met with her this afternoon. You probably are in the best position to throw a little more light on this, particularly because this program is being streamed live around the world, and we have an international audience who may not be too familiar with happenings down here in Ghana. When you met her, what really was her story? What was supposed to be her quote-unquote offense? What is it that got this to become such a story?
Yeah, what she said was that she's been in the same class with this guy, her mate, who is a boy, who wasn't performing very well in class, and so he decided not to, continue with the education. So he abandoned the course and left for Kumasi for whatever reason, maybe to go and look for a job. And then he had a dream. According to her, the boy said he had a dream and saw the girl's mother who removed his brain, and whether it was the brain or something that she removed and put in she removed and put in the girl's head or something. And so that made him not to be able to perform in school. So that is why she is always performing, and the boy, wasn't performing, and he had to drop out of school. And then there was a confusion between the two families, the boy's family and then the girl's family, and then it caused a problem in the community. So they had to accuse the whole community because of the belief they have about witches and all that. The whole community ganged against this girl and the mother and banished them from the community and asked them not to come back. But if they come back, they will be lynched or something. So they had to run away from the community to the Gambaga camp.
So where is she now as we speak?
Well, the girl, she is around. She's still in Gambaga right now because we haven't had a place to put her. We haven't taken a decision to also bring her to Accra because she has not decided yet. We don't have any better place for her. She wants to be with the mother because her mother right now cannot even eat. She has refused to eat. We've asked social workers to talk to her. They are doing some kind of counseling, and then just to make her try and suppress whatever happened to her 2 weeks ago. She's still crying and she can't eat properly, and so the girl, she is looking a bit better than the mother, and so the girl wants to be with the mother so that they can keep each other company for the time being, and so that after that we'll down take a decision and then she'll go back to school. So
is she? You say she's in Gambaga. Is it at the witches' camp or where in Gambaga?
Yes, because the mother is there. She is free to go anywhere, but because the mother is there, she doesn't also know anybody anywhere. So she feels that she should be with the mother, even though we wanted to take her away from there. But she has to be with the mother in the camp because the mother is in the camp now.
I see. So would any step be taken about her community? Because it is illegal for any community to banish anybody. It's completely against the laws of the state. So what happens to the community in which they live originally, out of which they have been banished? It is a crime. The chief of the town, I know him personally, is very well educated. The children are well educated. And even, I don't know what I should say, but even his own wife was accused as a witch. And that is why her children have been to university and all those things. She was also brought to the witches' camp. But that woman is gone back. She's been reintegrated back into the community. So it's a difficult situation. If you really know, you know them, but it is difficult. You cannot fight against the whole community. If you try, you don't know what is going to happen to the rest of the relatives that are there. You can't guarantee their safety because we don't even have a place to put them. And that is why implementation of some of our laws makes it difficult for us to implement some of our laws. So it is up to us as Ghanaians, and I'm calling on everybody, like SHRAG, like NGOs working on this issue, women activists, and so many of these organizations. We have to come together and give some kind of education, workshops, and talk to these communities, because those that we've been able to reintegrate, we talk to the communities, we talk to the families, and they accept them back. So far, we've been able to reintegrate about 17 of those women. So it is through education that we can change the attitude of such people in our community. So it will be very, very wrong to just start arrest at this time. We need education, even though we know it's against the law. We need to do a very serious, we have to carry out a very serious campaign towards attitudinal change. So at this stage, we are not very sure whether the young girl and her mother would easily be reintegrated into their society. And
no. For now, because it's so fresh, it is not easy. We tried and it backfired. We can't do it now. We have to let tempest settle and then maybe for some time we can go back to the community and talk to them. Because even according to them, tradition says that if they come there and they give them these concoctions and all those things, then at the end of the day, which is also wrong, at the end of the day, they are made powerless. So if somebody is made powerless and what you fear she can do is out of fear, why don't you bring her back to the community to have a better life there? This is how we talk to them. And so for some time, we'll be able to take them back, even though the girl will be in school. If she wants to go back, fine. But it is easier to send the people back when there's no death. If there's a death, if somebody dies, somebody is accused for the death of someone, then it is very difficult to reintegrate. But it's easier when there's no death at all. Like in this case, nobody is dead. So it is easier to get the people reintegrated.
Okay, I have Mr. Samuel Amankwabo-Sompem from Shraj on the line. But before I go to him, I have one more question for you at this stage.
Okay.
What does government plan to do about the Gambaga witches camp?
Yes, what we are planning...
And I'm told there are 6 of them.
Say again?
And I'm told by Ms. Angela Dramnabwaji in the studio that there are 6 of them, actually.
Yes. Yes. So what we are planning to do is to finally see the end of these camps. And we're not saying we are just going to drive everybody out of the camps and close them down. We are going to do it gradually, talk to the people in the communities, and send the women back or the inmates back. We cannot send them out like that because we can't guarantee their safety. So what we want to do is a gradual reintegration of these women back into the communities. And finally, we will not have anybody anywhere in any camp. So this is what we are planning to do. And it takes the efforts of everyone of us who are interested in this case to see to it that we come together and fight, because the Minister of Women and Children alone cannot do it. The NGO working there cannot do it alone. And so we need all of us on board.
Kindly hold on for a second for me. And Mr. Samuel Amankwabo-Sompem, good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you for joining us tonight. You know, we are discussing a wide issue, women's rights, but at this moment, we are focusing on the plight of the 17-year-old girl who has found herself at the, one of the witches' camps in Gambaga right now. There are 2 issues I want to throw at you. First, that they've been banished from their community, quite against the laws of this country. And secondly, that they are now currently at a witches' camp. What is Shraj doing about this?
Well, my first comment is that the issue that you are focused on is extremely important. It's a major human rights issue that the Shraj is concerned about. But it shows the discrimination and vulnerability that our culture imposes on girls and women. It is extremely backward, but the way we go about it is a major issue. Now, I heard the ladies who are doing a great job say that, look, if you rapidly reintegrate the suspected witches back into their communities, the likelihood is that the communities they may even be killed. Therefore, we need more education, more sensitization, more human rights education, and also to fight poverty. Because in 1998, when the Commission organized the first witches conference, the Roundtable Conference in Tamale, and explored some solutions, it was evident that people are declared witches, especially during the farming seasons and when there's outbreak of meningitis. And it is also the case that as Ghanaians, we believe very deeply in witchcraft. And to combat this, we need more enlightenment and more understanding of the need, appreciation of the need to respect the rights of others.
I believe that is work in progress, but as we do so, what happens to our 17-year-old sister?
The strategy is to put her in foster care immediately, because she may be endangered if we take her back quickly into the community, as I emphasized. It's also extremely important for us to understand that the belief in witchcraft that is so deep will take some effort, as one of the ladies emphasized, a collective effort by all of us to tackle and to deal with. It's also important that we emphasize that the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution.
1992.
Yes, 1992 Constitution prioritizes human rights and also emphasizes on cultural equality and validity of all religions and things like that. But it is important for all of us to appreciate that abhorrent cultural practices, dehumanizing cultural practices are prohibited. And we do not hesitate at all to say that banishing people into camps like this one amounts to dehumanizing them, amounts to infringing on their rights. It must not be the case. The Commission over the years has a critical monitoring role. So when we visit these camps, apart from educating and placing the spotlight on the witch camps annually, which we do, the State of Human Rights report that we issued last year, for instance, emphasized that, look, we must by all means endorse the position of reintegrating the suspected witches into their communities, but at the same time, the communities must be educated and must be ready to receive them. So there's an urgent need for more democracy and human rights education. Indeed, there's an urgent need, and there's the need for an explosion of civic education, of human rights education, to the extent that we could boldly take this little girl back into the community. But it is not the case yet. If we did that today, the likelihood is that the community will reject this little girl, and we would have problems and regret. So the first step that has been taken to protect the girl and let her continue enjoying her right to education is extremely important.
Okay.
Over the years, the Commission has also made some specific recommendations that concerning concerning these camps, the women in these camps, the livelihood empowerment program, for instance, the allowances given to indigents, should be extended to cover them. The Commission has also emphasized that the National Health Insurance Scheme should also be extended to cover them. These are some of the immediate steps that would secure minimum rights for these women as we explore the possibility of reintegrating them back into the communities, a position that we ultimately endorse.
Okay, let me take Ms. Angela Dwamnabwaje's view on what we've been talking about so far from both the Deputy Minister and yourself. I think that's a lot of information that has just come out to us, particularly from the Deputy Minister who has met this young lady today, and also from Shraj. But really, I don't know whether it's disappointment I read on your face or that you are dissatisfied with something. There's no art to find the construction of the mind in the face, according to Shakespeare. So I ask you to speak to the matters. What do you make of what they said?
Well, I thank them for what they said. Of course, since I started doing human rights work, maybe more than 15, getting to 20 years ago, we've talked about these things ad nauseum. And sometimes it's painful when it seems as if that no work has been done. A lot of work has been done. But the problem in this country is, one, political will concerning issues that have to do with vulnerable persons. Two, the continuity in our institutions. I think it was President Obama who said we don't need strong leaders, we need strong institutions. For a long time, there's been talk For a long time, there have been recommendations, reports after reports, monitoring, visits, name them. We have more than enough of these things on our hands. What we need is the political will for the country, the states, its governments, and I don't mean MPP or NDC, whichever government is in power, to take some of these developmental issues seriously, because they go to the core of the nation's development, and the fact that even though we may be a growing economy, a large population, a large part of our population is going to remain poor because of some of these sociocultural issues. What we find currently, for example, is that we have a Ministry of Women and Children that has a small budget, heavily donor dependent, is in charge of two huge sectors of society, women and children. That in itself is very problematic. When you do that, and I've said this at many platforms, you marginalize children's issues because children are not women and women are not children. Right. And you infantilize women because women are not children. Right. You need separate institutions for working on these from a policy perspective to ensure that all the organs of state are integrating women's issues and integrating children's issues. If we don't have that, there is no way the Women and Children's Ministry is going to be able to handle women, children, and gender mainstreaming across all sectors.
So do we still need a ministry?
Well, some of us had a problem with having the ministry in the first place, but we have it. So it's good. We all need national women's machineries across, you know, the world. I mean, this is something that is a UN recommendation. We've all bought into it. Sometimes it depends on how it's set up. If it's set up in a political, you know, from a partisan political perspective, what's going to happen is that if government changes, now we see that Deputy Minister Boya Gariba, who is very strong on these matters, has taken a personal interest in this matter. But it won't seep into the institution. It will be her personal thing. You know, if she is changed, it's gone. There isn't going to be somebody at that high level who is taking a personal interest in this matter and ensuring that there's reintegration and working to draw in all civil society organizations working on this matter and other organizations to ensure that this is done. Right. Next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll come back to this studio and the situation might be worse or still the same. And for me, that is what hurts the most, because governments lack the political will to ensure that the structures that are set up have continuity in them. We have our civil servants taking up the vision that is put forward by our political leaders and continuing whether they are there or not. And for me, when you look at women's issues and you look at children's issues, not to talk about the rights of the vulnerable, other vulnerable populations like persons with disability and the sick and persons with mental health illnesses and so on. I mean, it just keeps increasing. And I tell you, any country is as good as the development of its citizens, and we are losing out big time.
Let me get the final word from the Deputy Minister. I'm sure she has to go. Honorable, if you can hear me, what will be your closing remarks on this? What do you see happening in this 17-year-old lady's matter? And do you believe that there will be a final good resolution in a short time?
For the young lady, I think that one is certain. She's definitely going to go to school, and we'll come together. The organization that has promised to sponsor her, as well as the NGO working at the camp and all of us at the ministry, will ensure that she continues her school. We'll continue to support her and the mother for her to complete her education to whatever level she wants to get to. And then we'll also look forward to a bigger forum where we have everybody, all stakeholders in women issues, so that we can draw a roadmap to strategize and get these things done as quickly as possible, because all of us must come together, and so we will need a big forum, a stakeholders meeting, to take a decision on what we should be doing and see the way forward for the rest of the time that we have.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your contribution on the show tonight. We wish you all the best for the rest of the evening. And to Mr. Bosompem, what will be your closing remarks?
Well, I endorse the position that as a society, we must guarantee this little girl's right to education, and we must invest in her education and offer her protection, as we must be able to offer protection to any little child, any little girl or boy in such a situation. But I would also like to see some enforcement of the law to the extent that those who take the law into their own hands and go on the rampage and harass women and banish them and lynch them, I want to see prosecutions also. You know, and the law must work, and we must all, you know, respect the dignity and rights of every person, especially children's rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And that was Mr. Samuel Mankwabo-Sompem, Deputy Director, Public Education and Research at Shraj, and of course, before him, Honorable Hajia Hawa Wuboya Gareba, Deputy Women and Children's Affairs Minister. Ms. Angela Jomnabo is still with us. I believe it's a good time to take our first commercial break. And remember, you can still send us your views to 1760 across all mobile networks. At the women's rights in Ghana, myth or reality, myth or fallacy? That's our question tonight. Kwame Apau-Buedi says, when a man grows old, he is referred to as a fountain of knowledge. But when it's a woman, she's a witch. For equality, I think we should also put up wizards' camps. Otherwise, let's fight to do away with these witches' camps. Kojo Mensah, human rights exist in the books, and the activists do not walk the talk. That's Kojo. Otumba Arowolo Ojo Eniodumu. He says, I don't understand. Ni, are you saying that witches' camps in Ghana? Don't be confused. That's as simple as all I'm saying. There are camps in Ghana called witches' camps. And my guest tells us up north there are 6 of them. Irresistible Nathaniel Boachi says, until the girl child is allowed to keep her hair in school and also given equal chance to attain greater heights as boys have, the situation will remain the same. It all begins with a girl child in the nursery school. You think that the way we treat girls is what leads to all of this. Amihia Ras Prosper. Public education is what I think we all really need. Only if we are enlightened about most of our fundamental human rights. I don't think that these sorts of abuse will go on. Many of us do not know our fundamental human rights, and that's where the problem lies. That's Amihia's view. Amidu Taru Jara says, this is just barbaric, and I think the authorities and civil society and organizations should devise measures to address the social canker. Benedict Luis Suarez, do these things still exist? Some people should grow up. It's the 21st century, for Christ's sake. That's from Benedict. Tony King Asafo, sometimes I feel this is insane, treating some innocent lives like this for no cause. Where else in the world can we find such awful treatment? Shraj and the entire government should apply the human rights in our nation. I even wish this witches' camps would be demolished immediately. Bra Collins Kwame, I think this is the time our leaders have to stand and fight for our women and the children of this nation against this barbaric and inhuman act, especially the so-called female circumcision. I'm watching Kusi Kweku Sylvester. He says, check your own lifestyle. Don't blame any witch for your predicament. It is high time Ghanaians stopped blaming everything on witches. Muhammad Abdulaziz, I don't believe this is still happening in this era. It's too barbaric and must be stopped. I'm watching again, all Ghanaians should join in the fight against these abuses of children and women. It is so pathetic, a reading of the abuse of children in the newspapers. Sylvester Daiwil Lugu, I have heard about witches in my family, and I'm afraid to go to the village where they are because I do not progress in anything I do. That's Sylvester. Abraham Harris in Afo says, seriously, I think the abuse against women and children in our society is on the rise, and we have to put a stop to it. Esther Queen says, Ghanaians, this must stop. Romeo Ganza, a woman can never become, okay, all right, that's a message from yesterday. And so we will come back to the studio, and there are interesting things that our viewers are really saying. And I realize that there's general support, except for one who says he won't go to his village because that's where the witches are.
Yeah.
But someone made a point.
He needs a counselor.
He needs a counselor.
I think so.
But someone made a point about how we treat young girls from the nursery all the way through secondary school and all what they can do and what they can't do.
Yes.
And things that really results in how women at the end of the day get to be treated.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
Oh, well, it's true. I mean, we can't run away from the fact that, you know, our culture is heavily patriarchal, meaning that we give more value to men, what men do, and so on.
Right.
We can't run away from the fact that we socialize our boys and girls differently, and we teach the women to, you know, be soft and pliable and submissive and, you know, and all of those nice things we say that women should be and women can't be. And we teach our boys to be rough and, you know, strong and take leadership and so on. These things actually do have an effect on the way in which society generally views boys and girls, women and men. And it also shows up in our sociocultural practices, particularly those that affect women and girls. So you'd find that there are many, many sociocultural practices that are inimical to women and girls, and you don't see the same things happening to boys and men. It's not that men and boys do not suffer some forms of negative sociocultural practices, but the women and girls often get the shorter end of the stick. And there's been documentation across board. I mean, if you go to the Institute of African Studies, if you go to most of women's civil society organizations, you would find documentation about all of these, many of these practices. Some of them are really horrible and unspeakable, you know. And I think, again, that we come back to the fact that, generally speaking, leaders show the way. Policies are made so that we can govern ourselves by the rule of law and ensure that people's rights are respected. And that is why our governments show the way in these things, and then the rest of us bunch together with them to do the right thing. Now, if we are not building our institutions of response, then we're in trouble. For example, in the North, this thing has happened in the North. When you go to the Children's Act, clearly it says that the district assemblies are the first institutions that take care of children. So why is it that the woman is still in the camp, for example? You know, she's there, her daughter is there, she's afraid to go into the community. If our institutions were working immediately, they'll find a way of withdrawing this woman to another place.
But the deputy minister actually said that they can't even find a place for the 17-year-old girl.
But how is it that they can't find a place?
That's the point I'm making.
You know, I know the deputy minister is doing her best, but if our institutions were working, they know they can find a place. So I don't take that as an excuse. You can provide temporary shelter. Unless the person is refusing, you explore all the options. You know, other family elsewhere, other friends elsewhere. If there are any shelter institutions, of course there are few, you know, and then, but that's why I keep saying that if our institutions were working, these things will be easier. Not that they can be done away with at once, but we will put in place the sort of measures that enable us to act quickly when these things happen. And then we'll also have the preventive measures going on. You know, the human rights education. Shraj was talking about its recommendations and so on and so forth. Shraj offices are in many districts. There are few officers there. You hardly sometimes hear of them, see them, even though they are handling cases at their, you know, in their offices and so on. What is the coordination between NCC and Shraj to ensure that at any time in Ghana there is some mass civic education that's going on? When you go, they'll tell you lack of resources. Well, we've got to find the resources. You know, we have to prioritize some of these things because they aren't going away today or tomorrow. But it's only when we begin to work systematically, structurally, you know, strengthening our institutions and also ensuring that the people who are the brunt of these practices do get the help they need when they happen. I think that's the way to go forward. If it's happening in other countries, even in African countries, why can't we do it here? We throw up our arms in the air too easily. Ghana, I think we throw up our arms in the air too.
And we got a message from Nigeria, you heard from the name, or a person quite shocked that we have witches camps in Ghana. Yes. But really, what do we do about them? Do we disband them? Someone said we should destroy it immediately. But the question remains, if you destroy them immediately and the communities are still doing that and banishing people.
That's true.
Then what happens?
You see, the witches camps are traditional shelters for protection.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't want them, but that's the truth of the matter. People actually are not banished into those places. They run there for shelter.
Okay.
They run there so that if there are any rituals that can be made so that they can, if indeed they are witches, it can be taken out and all of those things, or so that they won't get lynched. So you can't just banish them without laying the groundwork, you know, which includes sensitization, not only just sensitization, conscientization, the kind of thing that changes the way people think. Not just, I've given you education, so you are at will to change or not to change. You do the carrot and the stick. The law book is there, the judges are there, the police are waiting, then you are being educated.
Right.
If you refuse, you face the courts. You understand? But oftentimes, even the police are afraid to tackle the traditional forms, the traditional practices that are going on, because sometimes they are part of the community. They don't want to touch it. You would find this in customary servitude and so on. And when they give you some of these excuses, you say, when armed robbery was at its peak in this country, I remember when I was growing up, special forces were set up for those kinds of things, you know, like the Buffalo unit, the striking force, the so on and so forth. They don't operate where they are. They operate out of jurisdiction. So then you use some of these things to ensure that there's law enforcement, not from the local police, but from the, you know, the outside, you know, law enforcement agencies, such as the DOFSU was set up, you know, but the DOFSUs are in the community, so people are getting used to them and getting away with these things. These things need thinking. These things need strategy and implementation, and backed with resources and political will. And this is not just about our political leaders, but our institutions, because we need to have, and I keep stressing this, we need to have continuity in our institutions. If I'm out of my organization today, the organization should not stop working. There should be people who are able to carry the vision and who are able to do what it is that needs to be done, whether I'm there or not. But that's what's going on in our society now.
I believe it's time for another commercial break at this stage. Remember, 1760 is a text line. It will cost you 30 pesos to send us a view. Send us your views. We are interested in them. And if you're on Facebook, it's facebook.com/multi-TV Express. That's the address. And then when we come back, we have a few more issues to do. Now, how should we take responsibility? Who should lead it? What should we be doing differently? At what level should we be operating? Do we have individual responsibility in these matters as well? Or do we leave it all to government? And we'll get some answers to all of that. Back to the studio. Let me I find out from you. So really, I think we should be finding a solution. Like you said, you've been doing this for over a decade. Perhaps you're looking at your 15, or you've done 15 years already. It's been a long time. We've been talking about the same issues over and over again. You've seen governments come and go. You've seen society changing. And then you have yourself moved on from stage to stage. What are we not doing right at this stage? Individually, family level, community level, business level, what are some of the changes you still want to see?
Well, several levels, yes. Individually, I think that it's important for many of us to wake up and take responsibility. I say this because you would find that there are not too many people who care about these issues. And even when you find people who care about it, they mostly want to talk about it, but not lift a finger.
All right.
You know, I know there are people in the society who can offer help. There are people in the society who can choose to step forward and speak up about these matters. There are people in the society who would choose to drive all the way up to the north and say, we are going to do some advocacy and education work. And so we need to, you know, rise up to the occasion. It's not enough to always see the same old faces, the same old voices doing this, you know, burning out and, you know, and all of that.
Right.
Secondly, at family level, I think we should, as a country, understand that our family systems are breaking down very fast. We can't reverse it. Modernity, you know, migration, poverty, all of these things are affecting our family systems.
Right.
But usually when things are changing, then we put in place new structures. Unfortunately, it appears that when it comes to family issues, we don't even have a social strategy, you know, a social policy that looks at the way, the changing nature of the Ghanaian family and put in place the kinds of systems and structures that can actually buttress it, as the Constitution urges us to do.
Right.
So that's another level. But again, there you need the the government to lead.
Okay.
You understand? It's very difficult for a single family or 100 families to just come together and say, we are going to change social policy. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. Okay, now then we come to our governance structures. I think the district assembly should wake up more to their responsibility, particularly towards protection of children's rights. That's clear. It's in the Children's Act. I don't think we are doing enough. In the past, some years ago, we even used to award the assemblies that were doing well on children's rights, you know, budgeting for children's issues within their programming and all of those things. Government changed, it went away. Government came back, nobody remembered. You know, that's been, like I keep saying, the problem. And I think also that eventually we also have to look at, I agree with Hawa Boyagariba when she talked about a stakeholders forum, yes, but clearly not enough. Because I tell you, if you come to my office, you will see the number of reports that are there concerning the stakeholder forum and that stakeholder forum. Clearly not enough. We do need it, but we need the kind of thing that will have an active plan of action that involves people who will be, you know, involved whether or not, you know, the government is changed or the leaders in that ministry is changed, in such a way that we can find the resources to back a plan of action that will go over maybe 3 to 5 years, to say at the end of 5 years, we don't want to see one single witches camp. We want to see the end of lynching in those societies, you know, people sensitized, you know, and we look for the money, we look for the people to continue over a period of time on the same strategy that involves all the stakeholders within the community, the chiefs, the ordinary people themselves, resocialization of the young men and women in the communities who are likely to do the lynching when it comes to that, you know, and then the dismantling gradually of the camps. Every one of these issues needs a strategy backed with resources, political will, and the people who will do the legwork, irrespective of change of political leadership. I think that's the only way many other nations have gone forward, you know, in tackling some of these issues. And this is the only way we too can go forward. What
is the contribution of religion to the myth of fallacy?
Well, religion plays a huge role in our communities. And I think that everybody knows that Africans are incurably religious. Right. It's a good thing. Okay. It gives us a sense of identity. It gives us hope when there is hopelessness and all of those things. However, you know, there's a place where you need to draw a line between your religious beliefs and the manifestation of the practices. Okay. I think that's where sometimes we don't draw the line. You may believe in witchcraft, but you can't go around accusing people that they are witches, because the system is going to ask you to show proof. And you may believe that children should be taken to shrines and offered to the gods as their wives. Believe it. But go into your room and use that to pray. You can't go and collect some children and go and put them in some shrine, because the state will ask you. And I think that's where we are failing. We are failing to draw the distinction between the freedom to our thought, conscience, belief, and all of that, and the manifestation of it, which affects the human rights of other persons. And once we're able to draw the line, we should be able to say no to some of these things. It's going to take some time, but I keep saying, if we plan well, and if we put our hearts and our mouths and our money where our plan is, I think we can get somewhere.
It seems that there's also some form of tension between tradition and modernity.
Yes.
And tradition hand in hand with culture against modernity. And they say that it seems as if we tend to put women in a certain category below the man. And that sometimes the women themselves participate in this thinking. And that if you see the example of what happened, as an alleged witch being set ablaze in Tema, or some lady allegedly dying in BNI custody, or the way a photojournalist was treated in court, etc., you will find active participation of some women who are part of this. People chanting and screaming that this person is a witch, and the majority of the people doing the screaming are women against that woman and all of that.
Yeah,
and so that cultural, traditional dimension is also a big challenge, isn't it?
Absolutely, but it shouldn't surprise you at all, because we are all socialized in the same society. Women are socialized to become gatekeepers of culture and tradition. We make the babies, we are expected to train them in the way they should go according to the way laid down by our forefathers. So if in my community, female genital mutilation is what makes a woman a woman and worthy to be married and so on, and we say marriage is the be all and end all, then as a woman, I am sure to keep that tradition.
And as a woman who actually do it.
Yes, unless.
I've seen documentaries.
Exactly, unless you understand that because of her role, something has to happen to break that cycle in her head. That is what we call personal empowerment.
Right.
Empowerment starts with the person.
Right.
Then comes the social empowerment, legal empowerment, political empowerment, economic empowerment, and so on. You can have all these other kinds of empowerment. If the personal is not involved, it becomes problematic.
And how do we shape that?
But that comes with the kind of education, the kind of, you know, we didn't come naturally into doing women's rights work.
Okay.
We were conscientized by other people, by what we read, by what we saw, by what was happening in our families and so on. And we said, no, this can't continue. So we managed to break that cycle in our heads that said women are only good for the kitchen, women are only good for doing this. You know, women can damn well be anything they want to be.
I believe so too.
Exactly. So we need to work on the personal level that enables women to say, I will not participate in that cultural practice. Why? Because I now understand what it does to women. It's dehumanizing, it's degrading, it is a reflection on me if I do that to another woman. But you see, it doesn't come easy. People assume that, you know, then it means women are their own worst enemies. No, everybody is everybody's own worst enemy. It's a societal problem.
Right.
It is because of the way in which we have been socialized. It's because of what we have learned, what we have seen, and what we are doing. And look at all our adverts. Some of them will tell you, I've been washing since 19 Kojoho. I've taught my daughter to wash. My grandmother taught her to wash. And so the tradition goes on. That's how it is. You know, so when you start saying, well, women don't have to do all the washing all the time. People say, hey, you are coming to spoil our women. You know, washing is everybody's job, okay? So we need to raise to the next level the issue about personal empowerment. Okay. It will mean rocking the boat. It will mean men will have to give up some of their privileges and their power. But it's okay because it makes society better for you as a man, for me as a woman, for our children who are girls and boys. Together we win.
Some final text messages here. Eben says, I think most of our Ghanaian films are also the cause of these witchcraft menace in our society. Okay, all right. And I believe we have another one. K has K 6 times as his name. KKK 6 times. God have mercy on us all. We talk about these problems and nothing is done about it. They keep growing worse each day. Why? Mercy on us is what you say. All right, those will be the final messages that we have or we can take. We have to run out of the studio, but I'll definitely give you a final word. Basically, touching on men. What do you say? How do men contribute to this?
Well, I want men to begin to step up publicly and say yes to women's rights, yes to equality, yes to no violence against women. Publicly, I want more men to step out there and say that they're part of this cause. It will change a lot of things.
I'm part of this cause. I'm a man. No to violence, no to cheating on women and all of those things, no to beating women and all that. I mean, it's a matter of, I personally believe that a woman can be anything she wants to be because I grew up in a place where I was always competing for first position right from preparatory school. And my best competition always came from girls. I mean, the Anita Kwashis and the Veronica Moores, I don't know where they are now, but I have no doubt whatsoever in my thinking that they must be doing wonderfully wherever they are. And, you know, so in so many ways, of course, when we went to law school, and Dijomo was walking away with 10 prizes and all of that. I mean, we had to salute all of that. So I believe a woman can do anything that she wants to be. Our Chief Justice, I'm a practicing lawyer. Our Chief Justice is a woman, and I read some of her judgments, and I know that it doesn't take a man or a woman to write the best judgment. It depends on you as a person. So we all need to come to terms with that and understand that we are partners in the march forward. We should be thinking of how to catch up with nations that have left us and not how to keep suppressing our women or our wives back there, because personally, without my wife, I don't think I'll be where I am today. I don't know if every man can say that for himself.